You know, a while back I did a review on this Ironton 30-inch brake from Northern Tool, and I really liked the brake and it did a great job for me. But one of the things I found was having to take the clamps on and off, and the whole process kind of slows you down. So let's modify this to make it work better. Let's get started. I'm going to start out with a piece of 2-inch angle iron, and I'm going to cut it 4 inches wider than the overall blade. 31 1/4, so we're looking at 35 1/4. 1/4. But on this other side here, I'm going to want to cut that on 45. Like that. And then also, I want to do the same on this end here. Just going to use a standard hacksaw. I really didn't realize how out of shape I was until I started cutting angle iron. Then, same thing for this side. Now I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are 4 1/4 inches. These are going to go on the sides of the brake to help support the clamps. Using an angle grinder, I'm going to clean up my rough cuts from the hacksaw. I'm also going to cut a square notch into both sides of this, and that'll help to support or give clearance to the clamps I'll be using. So I'll go ahead and I'll line the sides, and I'm also going to have to notch out about a 1/2 inch groove just so the lifting gates or the side handles can kind of clear on that. So now, setting the entire top end of the brake into the vise, I'm going to attach one of the 4 1/4 inch angles to the side of this. I'll mark the holes and I'll drill for 1/4 probably 1 1/4 or 1.5 inch bolts to go through. I'm going to be using a couple of toggle clamps that I picked up, and I'll put a link down below to these, but they are a 500-pound capacity clamp, and they're quite inexpensive. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark the holes for where the clamp's bolt will go through. And then after I've marked that on each end, I'm going to go ahead and mark out for 4 bolts to go through this angle iron and the blade below it. I'm going to mark from the front of the blade in 3/8 of an inch, so the blade itself will exceed that angle iron by 3/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to drill a series of holes so I can work my way up. So starting out with like a number 30 bit and working my way up to finally the 1/4 inch for the threaded bolts. Now I'm going to be using a 1/4-20 plug, tap, and drill set. And this is something you are not going to want to scrimp on. Don't buy a real cheap one. Buy a decent tap that can handle doing hardened steel. Because the angle iron is fairly soft, but that blade underneath is pretty hard steel. Using the tap, you're going to want to make sure you keep it oiled. And there are grooves in that, or flutes, and you can keep a little bit of oil in that, and then just work your tap down in there. Go slowly and don't force it. You know, when it starts to feel like it's binding, back it back out and clean the threads off of it, and then go back in. Re-oil it and just keep working your way through it that way. Take your time and don't force it. That's how you're going to break a tap. So after you finish tapping, let's take a little time to wipe down all this angle iron. Using some lacquer thinner, you can wipe off all of the oils from it so we can get ready to paint. So using like a latex glove so you don't let that lacquer thinner burn your skin, you can get all your metal wiped down and ready to go out and paint. After the primer is good and dry, you can come back with your finished color and start laying a couple of good coats of that on. Okay, I've got all the parts painted now and the blade drilled, and I managed to drill and tap the blade to fit, but I also managed to break off a tap in this steel. It's something you do not want to do. But to my luck, I had mismeasured on it and needed to scoot it over a ½ inch anyway, so I had to re-drill them and re-tap them. And if you're tapping, just really take your time. If it's feeling like it's starting to jam, you back it back off, oil it some more, run it back down, and really take your time on that. So let's start putting this together. I think the first I'll do, okay, is start setting the shims and the top on this blade. And these are not all the same shape, but they're the right thickness, and you really won't see it once it's in place. So I'm going to use these for the shims. Now these shims were basically some scrap 3/8 inch thick aluminum that I had. And you could do the same thing even just using like washers, but I liked having a little more body on that. These off, set them back, set that blade back here so I can set these sides up on this. The sides, I kind of made a lot of holes in this because when I first bolted it on, I had it level and it just I didn't get the pressure on the blade that I wanted, so I know I need to elevate this on a little bit of an angle. So I re-drilled and set a longer or a larger bolt through that. So we'll try to see if that helps out. So I know this one's got to come in. Turn it up like that, I can see what's going on a little better. And this is the one that I've got a little mobility on that. And I think I'll keep it to the lower part for now. Okay. Now I'm going to set this side up the same way. Okay, now I'm ready to start installing these toggle clamps. Now each one of them takes 4 1/4-inch bolts, so I'll just kind of speed through pushing these through and getting them tightened down. Now they're in place and we can start looking at putting the blade down on. Now I'm going to set this down here, but I think the best way to do this would be to literally pick it up and just feed it right into the toggle clamps and set my bolts on that way. Once you've kind of got this bolted down, now you're going to use the second bolt on there to adjust the height, and then the third bolt on there can adjust it moving up and down on each of these. So that should work real well because it's going to allow you to push this as close to the blade front as possible or adjust it back and forth. This is kind of the nice part, is I think you're going to have full adjustment in the entire process of this. So now I'm going to do a little tweaking, keep checking this to make sure that's where I want the blade to rise, and then just really tighten everything down. Okay, I think I've got everything pretty well tightened down, so now the best way to do is to test this thing out. So now I should be able to basically unlock this and open the blade up so that I can bring my material through. Line it up where I might need it bent, and then lock these in place like that. Oh yeah. Do my bend. And there's my bend. That works great. Right on a little heavier piece of metal, like this. Bring it through. Now it's easier for me to line up, lock it down, and make your bend. Excellent, excellent. That's great. I'm really excited here. This is going to work really good, and it's all put together now, and the modifications are done. Now there's some things I want to bring up that may seem strange. One of them is on the sides. I originally did this angle iron flat, but when I put it together before painting it, I noticed it had a hard time really lining up the blade flat. So putting it on a slight angle puts a lot of pressure directly to the front of this blade that's cut on a bit of a taper anyway. So that levels that out, and that puts really good pressure on it. One of the other things that's nice is, depending on your workbench, I'm able to just set this on the edge of my bench and use a couple of clamps and clamp down the brake to it. Works great. Now, one of the things that help out utilizing these clamps, how they lock down, you can just push it back and open the blade up and have a lot more room to move material in and out. Another thing that I really like is you can actually bend material to now a true 30 inches. That's what this is. And you can actually come in and bend right up to the full size of that material. And by having your clamps out here, you're not putting one of these traditional C-clamps to the back of it to hold the blade down. So that makes a big difference. But you fold it down, it locks in a full 30-inch piece, and it bends it just fine. I love that. Check that out. That's a nice crisp bend. Looks good. I'm really happy with this. So with that, I'm going to give it the DIY Gene seal of approval. If you like this video and have any comments or questions, put them in the comment section down below. And also check out some of these other videos. In the meantime, I'll see you soon.